And let's bring back in Alan Dershowitz right now, of course, the famed Harvard law professor, also a great defender of the nation of Israel. It's great to have you back with us, Alan. So let's pick up with the Prime Minister, his comments. Based on this and what we've heard with these negotiations in Oman, things are not looking good here. But are we any closer to a change in position from either the United States or Iran than when we were at the beginning of the week before these latest round of talks took place?
The United States has done two things that weaken our negotiating position enormously. Number one, it has basically said to Iran, look, we need your help in fighting ISIS. That's total nonsense. Iran needs our help in fighting ISIS. ISIS poses an enormous threat to the Iranian hegemony over that area. Iran, of course, is Shia. ISIS is, of course, Sunni. And Iran needs our help. And for us to be giving up anything in the nuclear negotiations in order to create better relations with Iran has it all backwards. We should be demanding more from Iran in exchange for our helping them destroy ISIS. That's number one. Number two, that absurd statement from the White House saying that Bibi Netanyahu is bluffing on Iran strengthens Iran's bargaining position, particularly in relation to Europe. The reason the Europeans had sanctions is they were afraid that Israel might attack. Now the White House is essentially saying, don't worry about Israel, it's a paper tiger, they're not going to attack. So the position of Iran has been strengthened by the United States. That's why Congress has to come in and play a major role in these Iranian negotiations.
And so what would that look like now? We have a Republican-controlled Senate now. What does Congress need to do? Because it seems like it may be too late, and the only way to continue forward with anything on this front is to start from scratch.
No, I think that the Congress can indicate that no matter what the president does, unless Congress approves, the sanctions will continue. So it has to eliminate the president's power to get rid of the sanctions and in that way participate in the process. It can also say that a deal with Iran constitutes a treaty under the Constitution, and treaties require the consent of the Senate. That may be a stretch, but having Congress get involved directly, I had an article yesterday in The Hill, which is read by all the congressmen, laying out the constitutional authority for Congress to act in this regard. What I'm worried about, what many are worried about, is that Obama is just trying to kick the can down the road for 2 more years to make sure that Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapons on its watch, and it won't. But it will allow it to become a threshold state, in which case President Obama, who I voted for twice, becomes the Neville Chamberlain of the 21st century, the guy who enabled the greatest threat of the 21st century to obtain nuclear weapons, the way Chamberlain allowed Hitler, the greatest threat of the 20th century,
that would be a huge
strengthen his power.
Disappointment to a lot of folks as well. And I want to move on because we're running out of time here, Professor Dershowitz, and get your take on the president's choice to be the next Attorney General, Loretta Lynch.
I've had not a lot of direct contact, so I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm doing research on some of her background and some of her cases. But right now, generally, the president is allowed their own choice on attorney general. But I'm not ready to make any decision on that until I've read more of the cases coming out of her office.
And certainly more information to come here on this front. But so far, on the limited amount of information that we've heard thus far, it seems like a continuation of what we saw under former or outgoing Attorney General Eric Holder.
I really can't comment on that.
All right, fair enough. Harvard Law Professor Alan Dershowitz. We've talked a lot here on the program today about other topics as well, including this ongoing deal. Professor Dershowitz saying that if Barack Obama just kicks the can down the road, he would be, in fact, the Neville Chamberlain on this topic. I wanted to get you to expand on that. We have about 30 seconds left, Professor Dershowitz.
Well, I think President Obama is concerned about his legacy, and he should not allow Iran to become a threshold state. And by the way, I would not accept the White House's assessment that Netanyahu was bluffing. If the Prime Minister of Israel feels that the deal poses an existential threat to Israel's 6 million citizens, 7 million citizens, he will take action, and he will take action unilaterally, as every country is entitled to do. Iran just the other day said that it wants to see the annihilation of Israel, the destruction of Israel. And if you give it nuclear weapons, it has the capability of doing so. And any country, such as Israel, that has so many people who survived or didn't survive the Holocaust, you have to take very seriously the threat of nuclear annihilation.
You do? Professor, I want to get the book in there one more time. It's called Terror tunnels the just case for Israel's just war against Hamas. We're back on America's Forum after this.